Jim, thank you
Alex,
for joining me here on stage.
Thanks for having
Brand
me.
Innovators. You are incredible, right? So you joined in 2021.
Yeah.
You've led total transformation
Yep.
at Bose. You now lead up the luxury division as well. Just unbelievable, the journey that you've had. So thank you for joining me. I'm Alex Boras, president of Blis. We are a T-Mobile company. We are wholly owned by T-Mobile, been in the house for about a year now. And we are the omni-channel activation arm for all of T-Mobile's data assets. So a big job and a lot to do there. But today we're going to talk to Jim really about kind of his journey at Bose and kind of where they're going with the new consumer attention. Jim, you came to Bose, first ever CMO. Talk to me about what was important, what have you changed fundamentally, and how did you get there?
So first of all, I think because of the nature of the people here, I think we should go off script and really push some of this conversation, have a little more fun. So
I'm in.
Yeah. So I'm the non-sanctioned answers since we have some hardcore people out there. So here's what I would say. Look, Bose is a legendary, iconic brand that really won through functional excellence for years and years and years. And they marketed their zeros and ones. And they had better zeros and ones than everybody else. There was another brand out there that had much less good ones and zeros. And so, but they came at it with a really distinct perspective within marketing and, punched Bose in the face. And I think that had people sort of say, how do I think about this differently? And my opportunity was to come in there and take that functional excellence that Bose has and layer what music is really meant to do, which is evoke an emotion and create an emotional elevator for people. And that's what the products do. And so we shifted from arguing features to really talking about what it is to be a music fan and what that actually entails.
So that couldn't have been easy at a company like Bose, right? Bose is traditionally an engineering-led company. MIT holds part of the company intentionally. And so trying to shift the company to something that's a little bit more culturally relevant, a little more experiential versus focusing on the core technology that is, many fans here in the audience, I know. Talk to us how you navigated those conversations in those early days, because that couldn't have been easy.
It's hard, but I think so what maybe we'll throw to the film to see what we've actually done over the last roughly 6 months to get an idea of it, and then maybe I jump into answer.
Amazing.
Okay, great. Can we roll the film?
In 73, when the needle hit the groove, I commenced to move. I was chasing what's calling me. Feet don't fail me now. 1 foot in the car, 1 in the clouds. Feet don't fail me now. I just gotta move. I just gotta move on.
Okay, so thank you. Thank you, each one of you. Look, I think you'll see the difference there. It's not really you're not buying, a product for just what it can do for you as its, functional piece. Of course, that's sort of a given. What we wanted to show is what this actually makes you feel, and started to market it through more emotional aspects, and then through really strong credibility in the music space. We don't have Taylor Swift in this, right? There are streamers and there are hardcore niche genres of music that are played out throughout there. And I think if you're a passionate music fan, there's nothing wrong with the biggest acts in the world, but we act a little bit more as Jack Black in High Fidelity. We're the independent record store that you come to and ask for a music selection or recommendation. And so showing that out in content originally, the engineers freaked out.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, you know, that like in an engineering company, they're in love with their product, and that's all.
Not easy.
And they think the world is in love with their product and will pay attention to it, and no one cares. Literally, no one cares. In general, I mean, it's true. You have to give them a reason to care about that. And what you try to help the engineers understand is that ultimately you're putting their product on a pedestal and you're featuring it in a different way. But like, it was hard. I had a lot of feedback from people that worked in the company and actually had left the company years ago and retired, and I was getting feedback on it.
Oh, wow.
But I think you have to have the courage of your convictions and understand, like, as a massive music geek, like, you know that this is what Bose meant to me as a child, and so I'm gonna follow this playbook, and then you will eventually start to see it in the myopic metrics, and then you will eventually start to see it in the revenue. You just have to have the courage of your convictions.
I think that's well said. I mean, obviously well said, but I think, how do you then take it that step further and prove that your hypothesis is what is driving the business forward, right? So you have a shift. I think so often as marketers, we're thinking about attention. At this panel, I'm thinking about attention. Do we have the audience's attention? And are we making things interesting? As a marketer, you know, we're kind of chasing that, but you've talked a little bit about having a different metric here.
Good question, Alex. I mean, look, like, I think attention is rented, and it's really interruptive for most advertisers. And maybe in other categories, that's what you have to do. If it's a low involvement category, if you're certain products within CPG, maybe you have to do that. I don't know. But within something like music, I think the opportunity is to earn people's time and attention, and to go even further with the programming and the kinds of experiences you created, and invite them to participate in. And so this was like, we've been working on this for some time now with live music showcases, and we did partnerships with NME, where we would have original tracks from the 12 artists that you should be listening to every year. Like, we were doing parts of this. Now we're launching something called Bose Studios, which takes the idea of all these media formats around music programming, the art and craft of this, and launching programs within each one of these that really do earn people's time and attention, and also let them participate in it. So breaking new artists, breaking it, or helping to shine a light on underappreciated artists, doing live music showcases, releasing tracks from some of those artists, creating a content series and feature films that go deep into profiles with some of the best Hollywood directors out there that have a real love of music. For us, it's sort of giving back to that community. I think that's the most powerful thing, because we're building appreciative assets.
So you all are sitting kind of at that, you know, when I think about my music taste, right, that's my identity. When you think about building artists, young artists, getting them well known, you're creating a community around them. How does that then shape kind of the culture and what you're trying to put out in terms of marketing messaging? And if you take it one step further, within your own team, right? Because it starts at home, and then you 100%. Have to send it out.
Yeah. So look, like, Bose is for music fans, by music fans. I mean, the people in our company are rabid about music.
Yep.
I mean, my head of engineering's in a Black Sabbath cover band, like, no lie. Look, I think the credibility for us comes in the long tail of artists, but the long tail of subgenres. We talk about it all the time. Like, you don't have to be a fan of experimental noise from Detroit to appreciate, you know, us doing something with a band like Wolf Eyes. Yeah. But if you see repeatedly these niche genres, you think to yourself, like, wow, this is a company that is truly dedicated to the community and craft. Because you said, like, music's part of your identity. You're not alone. For people that really love music, like me too, like, it is the first thing that people talk about when they talk about me as a human being, is my connection to music. And so for those people out there, if we can help them through this work, create a deeper connection to music, then believe that Bose wins in the end.
Okay. So you've had a ton of success. What's next? How do you evolve that platform? You're talking about kind of, you know, launching the artist studio sessions, that kind of thing. How do you keep on going? Do you feel like, you're entering a different category to a certain extent?
Yeah, I think, look, I think for us, I think complacency is the enemy. Like, we've had a lot of success, but it's not good enough and never is. And that should continue to push you to top yourself and do something better and greater. And I think that, for me, that community that I grew up in around like independent music was a source of strength and identity. And I think, helping to drive people into a greater closeness with music and appreciation for it, whether it's community, whether it's with their family, whether it's, to push through a very tough workout or get over a terrible breakup is a heavy responsibility. But I think with doing the things that we're doing helps propel us to like really be a champion for this art form. And I think that moves you beyond like a consumer electronics company, moves you into a different place in people's hearts and minds. And I know it did for me in my relationship as a 15-year-old when I bought my first Bose product.
Yeah.
So that's so I'm literally doing
coolest
it for my
dad ever.
15-year-old self.
Yeah. That's unbelievable. I think, your approach is, it's not kind of cookie cutter. It's certainly outside of the mold, or it feels outside of the mold. What would you give, as advice to the marketers in the room that are, maybe forced into doing things that are a little bit staid, need to reinvent?
Yeah, I mean, look, that's where you start. I mean, you have to. I gained a lot of credibility taking on things earlier in my career, like performance media, which wasn't the height of creativity, but it showed that I had financial savvy and I understood that we're here to make money. And then I parlayed that, like growth hacking and understanding math, into running direct to consumer businesses, like with the commerce side of things and e-commerce. And that gave me more credibility. And as you start to build this universe of skills and you align your agenda to what the CEO's agenda is, and they see that you'll sometimes have to make short-term decisions that, in some brand Bibles is, sacrosanct, but you have to live for today in order to conquer tomorrow. When you start doing things like that and building credibility and having some success, that allows you to keep taking additional steps along that path. I think people make the mistake of saying, I'm going to be bold and go 0 to 100 without establishing that beachhead. Yeah. If it doesn't go well and well fast, which it's hard to do this, like this is brand experiences, accrue over time. And if you're not careful, like you have a swing and miss, or even just you get people on base, but you're not scoring fast enough, that's where executive teams lose confidence in marketing and then say, move on. But for me, I think if you build your career and you focus on conversations like that early on, I think that sets the stage for you to take bigger calculated risks, and those start to pay off in a portfolio. It shouldn't be one, it should be many. Mm-hmm. And that starts to pay off, and it allows you to keep doing and keep doing and keep doing.
That's amazing. I think that's amazing advice for any marketer, anyone that's in advertising, which hopefully all of us are in this.
I may add one more thing, Alex, if I can too. It's like the other thing for people who hear the non-traditional advice, sometimes it's just not meant to be, and sometimes you should just say, check please, right? Like sometimes it doesn't work. I've had a stop. I had one stop in my career. Check it out on LinkedIn. You'll figure out which one it was. That like I went in and said like they wanted one thing. I went in to try to do that, and I thought I could, through all of those mechanisms, help bend the organization to this will and propel them to another stage. And ultimately, I couldn't. There were things that were in the way and a bunch of lessons that I learned along that process. But I just decided, I'm like, life's too short. I'm going to get on with my life's work, which is not here, which will be at the next place, and I'll do it there. And I think sometimes people stick with it and suffer. Don't do that.
Rip the Band-Aid off and get out if you're not happy, right? Follow that passion, get to do the work that you want to do, right?
Yeah, I mean, not only not happy, but like you can't, sometimes you're in a situation where you cannot succeed. You cannot succeed by the parameters that put you in, that then make you beyond not happy, miserable. Yeah. And then at that point, it's like, well, what are you doing here? Yeah. No, I mean, I think that's good life advice, right? If you're not following your passion and you're miserable in what you're doing, change it up.
switch it up, find that thing that does, and success will follow. When you think about kind of as Bose continues to evolve as a company, continues to evolve as a platform, how do you work with the product team and engineering team? Because they're obviously ideating all the time. You've got new products to take to market.
Yeah.
Where do you start? Do you start with giving it to an influencer? Do you start with giving it to an up-and-coming band?
Well, actually, you start all the way at the beginning. So Consumer Insights reports into me, which didn't always at Bose. There are multiple entities throughout all of engineering, and everybody had their own team. And surprise, what happened? Every engineer's idea that had their own team was brilliant.
Yeah.
Right. And look, I have a lot of respect for the engineers. They create magic that I couldn't do, but centralizing that function, being really focused on what needs to be created versus what might be a party trick, and really focusing on that's where it starts. And then all the way through the process, like now I'm even have a great relationship with the head of product where like we're super involved in the design, the physical ID, and the materials, because it's so important. Like, there's a lot of ugly consumer products out there. And like our push into that, like the best stuff that we create shouldn't be the collaborations we do with like Tom Brown and Kid Super and Kith and Wales Bonner, like, amazing design companies, but like we should be able to create inline stuff that kills. And so and then from there, that opens up the long tail of creators that can then help tell our stories. Because, some are about tech, some will be about design, some will be about fitness, some will be about music. Some are chefs, right? And it's just like how music sets a tone for their dinner parties or meals. Yeah. So I think if you are close along the way, like every step is a commitment to the brand guardrails you create. And I believe there is no lazy way. Like you have to be so focused and so disciplined on everything matters as you go through that process. And if you do that enough, you send the right signals to the people that you're trying to engage with.
That's amazing. Do you see of your competitive set, is anyone else doing that in the space, or do you feel lucky to have that synergistic relationship with your product team?
I mean, look, like there are a lot of great competitors out there. They are gigantic multinationals that make everything, washing machines, phones, laptops, and music's a side hustle for them. I mean, they make a lot of good products and they have ecosystems. We're this fiercely independent company that is only about music. And so there's a heavy responsibility with that of innovation. And so we kind of do our own thing. I honest to God, don't really pay attention. All respect in the world for them. They're great companies. But I don't really worry about what they're doing because I know that if we run our play, there is a portion of the audience that understands what Bose is and stands for. And the consumer value that we provide back both, tangibly and emotionally. And that's what matters.
Yeah. I think, anytime you're putting the consumer first at the end of the day and putting that brand experience first, it's a winning strategy. From your perspective, as we're at Cannes, tends to be a little bit forward-looking. I feel like we're more forward-looking now than ever. What's getting you excited about what's next in advertising? What's next in media? What are you kind of excited to see on the horizon?
I mean, so I'm going off script. The most interesting thing to me is what happens to specifically creative agencies, right? Like, what are they doing now that people are going directly to production companies? I'm interested in how the business model changes with media companies, with, AI agents driving a lot of this decision making and how they create enough value and differentiated value in that chain to not go directly to platforms. I think there's just a lot of, like, how do agencies become more human and go into analog and real world experiences? Like, to me, that's the most interesting. It's not like the same tired talk track of, I feel like what's out there. Like, yeah, stuff's always gonna change. I wanna know fundamentally how that's gonna impact and like who's being really smart about shifting their businesses, to match some of the needs that are happening out there. And brands of all kinds of shapes and sizes, I think that's probably the most compelling thing.
Yeah, I mean, feels like the industry's a bit at an inflection point for the first time. And I don't know, maybe since the advent of digital, right? Where we were all like, okay, the kids are on the digital, but we're still doing this linear and print, and how are we going to move away from that? And this feels like one of those major inflection points for the first time in few times in our careers, right?
But that should be a huge opportunity. So I'm old enough to remember that moment, and no one wanted to work on digital.
No.
And I was one of the people very early on to say, like, I want to work on digital. And it became a massive differentiator for me in my career, especially in like the early turn of the century. And so I think like this presents huge opportunities for people either early in their career or mid in their career to differentiate themselves by taking some bets. Like I took a massive bet and left a gigantic car company and went to a .com startup in 1998. It was a huge risk, but I'm like, what's the worst that happens? And I didn't have kids and dogs and houses, but like that risk paid off. And I think for those people out there that are trying to do interesting things and differentiate themselves, it's really hard when you're at that stage. That's the way to do it.
What are you recommending your kids get into as this kind of goes along, as they're approaching college?
None of them listen to me. So we start there. But I continue to preach that I think relationships are going to matter more than ever. Businesses that are and skills that are relationship driven and storytelling driven are going to still be key no matter what. Like if you can engage people, if you can build connection to them, if you can tell the story, because that's the way that information has been conveyed since the dawn of time, then you will be successful if you have those core capabilities and skills. And so, like tangibly, my son's super interested in sports. He's a basketball player. And I'm like, yeah, sports marketing would be amazing for you to get into. Because I don't think we're going to AI the shit out of sports marketing.
Might be the one bastion that stays around, and
I know there are other examples of that, but I think like that's a really big thing. But I think like the analog moment is really key for things that you care about. Not for everything. Like for some people it's coffee, and they're going to take the 15 minutes to make the incredible espresso at home. For other people, it's music and that ritual of buying this unbelievable system and putting on a record and looking at the liner notes and like taking time to hear it as it was intended, sequenced. Like those things matter. And matter to you if you love that ritual. And I think it's sort of, where do you find those moments if you're lucky enough to be in a category or tangentially to those rituals to blow that out?
Jim, that's amazing. Thank you for your time today. I have one more question for you. What are you listening to right now? Do you have a Can playlist?
No, my Can playlist would be a bunch of French music, right? And like I go everything from Edith Piaf to Les Thugs, which was a French punk band from the 80s.
Is everyone writing this down?
So like that's the Can playlist. But what I'm listening to now, highly recommended, Weird Nightmare. It's like the Beach Boys if they had grit. And it's the record's called Hoopla. That's the best record that's out there right now.
Amazing. The man is amazing. He's done an amazing job at Bose. Bose is an amazing company. Thank you all for being here today.
Thank you, everybody. Appreciate all of you.